Please welcome Laura Nix and the Yes Men. Talk to me about the Action Switchboard. What's happening with that?
We've just launched it. It's rolling out, and you can sign up. Just go to actionswitchboard.net. We've just launched a collaboration with organizers from the People's Climate March to use the Action Switchboard to try to keep the momentum of the People's Climate March going, because it's kind of, there's all these people who are energized, they want to do something, and we're going to work to get them to contribute their ideas, their energy, which they have. They want to do stuff, and it's kind of it's a platform that enables us and people we work with to assist direct actions in happening, including arrestable ones.
There's a kind of long-held tradition of using satire to penetrate consciousness, and you seem to be creating a modern version of that. Do you think about a tradition that you come from?
Well, I think that this kind of thing is something that we started doing when we were quite young. This, mischief, you start rebelling against the sort of uniformity of culture. We kind of grew up at the same time as big box stores started landing, out in the countryside, like UFOs. And there's a way that you start to, I think, impulsively do that, or compulsively in our case. But then as we go along and as we do more of this, we discover these traditions. And so, yeah, there's, all kinds of traditions of rebellion that involve mischief.
Yeah, going back as far as you want. Like, obviously, Native Americans have a huge tradition of trickster. For us, I think we were inspired without knowing it by a lot of people who have done it pretty recently in this country, the Yippies, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, in the 60s. Before that, there's tons of people, some of them we know, some of them not, because it's sort of ephemeral, but we were inspired, I think, to do this by them, even if we couldn't name them. It just becomes part of the culture, and that's really important. That's one of the points of the film, is that doing what you can makes a difference.
Laura, these two guys are in the forefront. You're more behind the scenes. Can you talk about how you got drawn into the Yes Men's world and how you work together?
I've known them a long time, before they were Yes Men. So I think that I kind of watched that moment, and I was around when they first met and started hanging out in San Diego. Around that time of the obsessive hanging out and the trip across the country, I was like getting phone calls from that road trip. I remember that. So it was, I've known them a long time, and I wanted to be able to kind of tell that part of the story, that it looks really fun, and the other films showed these guys kind of like flying around with superhero capes almost, but the reality is that it's actually very hard to do this kind of work and very hard to do it for a long time. And the older you get, the harder it is to keep going. How do you keep going? And they do keep going, and I feel like that message of how they keep going and how you lose your hope and get it back again is one that we all need to find when we're faced with really big challenges like this. Really huge problems that seem insurmountable. You have to wake up in the morning and figure out a way that you're going to be able to fight back, and hopefully there's a kernel of that everyone can walk away from seeing the film. And so working with them is never boring, as you can imagine, and full of lots of surprises, and keeps everyone on their toes at all moments.
Which action did you take the furthest before you got found out?
Well, the last one, when we left, they were still calling us 3 hours later and asking us where Colin Powell was. That just kept going. I mean, I was like, after the dance, I figured this is obviously cat's out of the bag, but they kept phone calling and saying, hey, you guys are coming back with Powell, right?
I was wondering if you feel like the current political environment is going to make it harder to launch actions or to get people galvanized, or do you think it's actually going to encourage people to step up and do more?
Oh, no. It's always the same. I mean, you always have challenges. One thing that's pretty constant, though, is that people always think that the current moment is harder to achieve change than the times when people did achieve change, which are many, many, many. But people always think, oh, this time it couldn't happen like that. That's just, I mean, it's not your fault. It's just our reflex. What we always think is that this is unique. But it's not. Like, massive changes happened in America many times, or at least 3, and it can happen again.
So I think this is a question for Laura. How in the film did you get them to go a little bit more personal?
It was hard to get them to do that. I think that they're more comfortable with being behind the mask than not, and but eventually I think we all understood why that was an important thing to do, especially for the third film, because we didn't want to just do the same film over and over again. This is the third one, and we wanted to show something different, and structuring it is difficult. There's essentially two parallel stories that are going through the whole time, one which is the climate change story, and the other one which is the story of the trajectory of their activism, and really a story about activism itself and why one would do this and why one would keep doing this, and showing the trials and tribulations of all those things, and then eventually getting to a point at the end where they all come together and you say, we have to act still, because we really have no choice. We must act. They must act. They must compulsively do what they do. They can't stop themselves. I mean, all evidence shows maybe we shouldn't do this anymore. Things happen, and then you still keep going.
No, and ultimately, I think the real hero of the film is Occupy the movement and everything that came out of that and so on. And I think to really show that, we had to show what it meant for us as people with our troubles. So there was no choice. We had to make a personal film, and it was a pill we had to swallow.
What country is most responsive to the Yes Men in terms of your films getting out there?
Belarus. No.
Belarus, definitely. No, it's in Germany. It's been sold, right? So, and many others.
I would just say that there's a following in Europe. There's definitely a following in Europe, and there's kind of pockets of people, like in France and in Germany, in Scandinavia and other places. It's hard to say, but I think that there is somewhat of a global audience. I don't want to be like we're Transformers or something, but that we try. And specifically for this film, it was very important for us that the film have a global reach and that the film have a global message. There's a way that this film could have gone down a story that would have stuck with a kind of American energy story, which is absolutely a valid story, but we wanted to make the reach larger so that we could involve more people.
How does the Action Switchboard relate to the Yes Labs?
The Yes Lab is a thing we launched after the last film, actually. Many of these, it is workshops that we do with various groups, and some of these actions actually came out of that. And the Action Switchboard is basically the same thing. It's just online and also in person. I didn't really explain that. Michael? Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, basically, we have a nonprofit organization called the Yes Lab, and it helps and facilitates organizations who want to do similar attention-getting stunts for their campaigns at moments when that kind of attention is needed to galvanize opinion, to potentially change laws. We realized that we couldn't serve all of the organizations that were coming to us, and a lot of people have signed up and simply said, I have a skill, or I know how to do something, or I want to participate. And so we figured out that if we could matchmake them with each other, maybe we could get a whole lot more action happening. And so it's kind of like if you mashed up Facebook, Kickstarter, Tinder, and protest.net. That's what it is. So if you go sign up for it, we will send you an email, and you'll be asked to participate, to suggest projects of your own, or to browse the projects and join projects. And we have facilitators who work there and also see what skills you have and where you live, and will email you and put you in touch with people who are doing other projects who you might want to collaborate with, and give you the choice to do that if you so desire.
And Michael, they can sign up now, right, at actionswitchboard.net, correct? Thank you. Okay, so you can go to actionswitchboard.net and sign up and be a part of that community.
That's actionswitchboard.net.
Thank you very much for coming to DOC NYC. Thanks especially to Laura Nix and the Yes Men.